Welcome to the Andy Staples Show here in Indianapolis.
Back again.
At the Combine. Nick Baumgartner covers all things Michigan.
That's right.
For The Athletic. If it's
and
in Michigan, he covers it.
Michigan and the draft. That's my
move. The Lions are in Michigan.
Yes, that's true. I do all of it.
The Red Wings are in Michigan.
All football in Michigan. I don't do hockey. I wish I could.
Why not?
I don't know enough about it.
Do you even know where to buy an octopus?
No, yeah, I do. I was a huge fan as a kid, and I played a little bit. But I played more football and was better.
Right.
And it was just,
So you never got...
So I gave up on hockey early. I'm not as knowledgeable.
You can spell Iserman.
I can. I love it. Like, if they're back in the playoffs, I'll be there with the squid, but I don't know anything that's going on. But
Very nice.
For sure.
Well, so we got to talk about a bunch of things. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks here in Indy. Absolutely. Because that's... Nick and I saw Nick Monday night at our athletic function, and we immediately got into an Anthony Richardson conversation because...
How can you not?
I feel like Mugatu from Zoolander. I'm taking crazy pills. But it's not just Richardson. It's him and Levis. But, Nick, before we get to those guys, I want to talk to you about C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good one to start on.
Because the last time we saw C.J. Stroud play was against Georgia in the Peach Bowl.
Right.
And he looked amazing. He was all of the things that we said he couldn't or wasn't throughout college.
Yeah.
But with all of the good things, because here were the things going in that we knew about CJ that were good going into that Peach Bowl. Ruthlessly accurate,
right?
Pinpoint,
almost to a level of that's kind of sickening. Yeah.
Great touch, can throw guys open, all of that stuff.
Yes.
The question was, in a dirty pocket, can he operate? Can he escape? Can he improvise? And he showed.
Against the best team in the country. Yes.
All of those things.
Right. And it was maximum. It was what we always thought he could be.
Yeah.
And now you come here and you say, well, Bryce Young's not going to work out. He's not going to throw. I don't know. He's going to talk and do the medicals and everything, but he's not going to do anything else. So that opens the stage in this very not separated pack of quarterbacks toward the top of the draft for someone like C.J. Stroud or maybe Levis, but I would assume my bet would be more on C.J. to take advantage of that opportunity and really explode, because this is the competitive, this is noticed. When you don't work out here, it's noticed. And when you do come here under the stress, under the pressure, and like you're saying, if he goes out there and just rips it, it's going to help a ton for him, more than we would have thought maybe.
And the throwing, so pro day throwing is very stage managed. You're throwing to the receivers that that you trust and are comfortable with.
It's everything.
Your private QB coach scripts the entire workout
to your strengths.
Right. Yep. This one is you throw that route to him
right now,
who you don't know. And so I think that plays to CJ's strengths.
I agree. Yeah.
I don't know that it necessarily plays to Richardson's strengths or Levis's strengths.
Right.
And so CJ could really...
I think he could really separate.
Yeah.
I think that the other two guys could, depending especially on Levis's health, and we'll see where Richardson's at, but I mean, those two guys could falter too, because this is the ultimate. You just put them and stand them there and say, nobody's coming at you, just make a throw. What do your feet look like?
Yeah.
How's the delivery? How in tune are you with what we're doing?
I will say, Richardson and Levis are going to rip it.
They will.
Like those deep balls are going to look amazing.
They will have highlights on all of the channels, but it's but I do wonder all the little things that, CJ's going to throw all the sideline stuff, all the it's going to be everything. And I guess that's going to be, when we heard that Bryce wasn't going to work out, it was I immediately just went to, man, this is a huge opportunity for Stroud, because I think if we think about it, we didn't see everything from him in college, but he is the guy in this class that has everything. Really.
Right. He can run
the most of it.
Doesn't really want to.
Right.
Not his choice.
Which I don't hate that.
No.
In the NFL. That's
in the NFL, you're not going to make a living running the football.
No.
That's not. Josh Allen can do it, and Lamar Jackson can do it, and maybe Anthony Richardson, depending on how things go, can do it. But not many human beings are fast enough to be an adequate runner in the NFL and also be able to throw the ball.
Right. I mean, and that's the difference. And it's do you care if he's not wanting to do it unless the situation... The one thing would be is there's a lot of times where you see with CJ where the pocket is clean, nothing's there, and he still doesn't want to go.
Right.
That can be something that I think he could work on. But the rest of it, no. I mean, I don't care that he doesn't zone read.
This is where we get the occasional Ohio State fan who's like, it's Ryan Day just holding him back, man.
I mean, I don't think he wanted to get him hurt.
No.
And I think that all of that stuff, but some of that's feel.
Right.
When to leave the pocket, when to take off, some of that's feel, and some of that's just growth. And he's a young player.
Yeah, and see, that's where of all these people, Bryce Young, I like the best
because he's the best at it.
I trust him when he is dancing around back there.
Yeah.
He looks like he's got a plan no matter what is happening.
No matter what, yeah.
So, but
he's the best at football, like you've said.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes. But again, that doesn't always translate here.
No, it does not.
So, but you and I were talking about Anthony Richardson last night, and we talked about it again today. And I am coming to grips with the fact that as long as he throws well, like if he doesn't have a completely inaccurate day throwing against air,
yes,
he will solidify his place probably as a top 15 pick.
I think so.
Which blows my mind still, but I'm coming to grips. And look, I said this to Ari on the last show. We're just as guilty. Like after the Utah game, we were handing him the Heisman. We were making him the number 1 overall pick.
He looked amazing.
We called him next Cam Newton. Like, this is also my fault. I understand that. So, but it is amazing because he is going to need the right situation. He's going to, and so you cover the Lions. The Lions are in an interesting situation.
Yes.
They draft 7th. Is that right? 6th. Okay. So they have Jared Goff under contract for 1 more year. Jared Goff is a good-ish,
late 20s,
capable-ish
who can
NFL
get
quarterback.
you to the playoffs and not screw you.
Right. They should have made the playoffs last year.
They should have.
If they had fit the run at all against Carolina, they make the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is the interesting part to me, because if he got in a situation like that where there is a bridge player,
yes,
then I'm more optimistic.
I'm really optimistic. Then it's because it becomes this whole conversation about, and I was talking to somebody else about this too with Jared, because you get the conversation like, well, maybe he'd be upset. Maybe he wouldn't like it. Dan Campbell saved his career.
Understands.
Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, but both of them, they saved his career. And he was very clear at the end of last year, I just want to play for Dan.
Yeah.
I really don't. And so I do think you would be able to, if you involved Goff with, like, you draft Richardson, you bring him in, you say, Jared, we want you to help this kid and make him, as you continue. And we'll see what happens, because that's the NFL now. And I think you look across the league and you look at what the 49ers do, you look at what John Schneider's talking about, quarterback. Yeah. Good teams do this.
Geno Smith could be the bridge guy.
Yes,
in Seattle.
It's a perfect situation if the quarterback that's there is willing to sort of like play ball to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, he's getting paid, so it's like you can't be too mad,
and the thing is, Geno Smith has been through the professional ringer.
Yeah.
Jared Goff really has been too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
not as much as Geno, but yes.
But Jared Goff was a number 1 overall pick.
Who was given up on.
Yeah. Who was left for dead.
Right.
And so I think those people understand. I mean, that's actually what Alex Smith was.
Right. Same exact thing.
And he served that role for Patrick Mahomes.
Right. And I think that it's hard to totally tell a guy, like, we want you to just do this and serve this role for this guy and go forward. But like, I do, and I don't know if it would last forever. I don't know if it would be something that would work forever and ever, but I think Goff 2 years ago, he wouldn't have handled it.
Yeah.
Last year, maybe not. I think he's grown up an awful lot. And I think that the case can be made that that's just the NFL. There are elite tier, when Sando does those tiers, it's the elite, and then everything else is just talk. Because you're either elite or you're not, and everybody has to know that.
And I kind of wonder if Levis needs that too, but you brought up an interesting point about Levis, that the foot injury, and we've talked about this with Dane on Prospects to Pros, like the foot injury was worse than anybody knew.
Everyone knew. Yep.
And there is the fact that he played in Liam Cohen's offense in 2021
as a younger player,
where Liam Cohen was the OC with the Rams, not the OC at the Rams anymore. He's going back to Kentucky.
Back at Kentucky, to save the day.
But Will Levis has run what is now a popular family of offenses in the NFL.
Has.
Probably the most popular family of offense.
Because
this is the same. This is the Shanahan tree. Yep. McVay. It's all kind of
Daniel now. Yes,
one in the same.
Taking over. Yeah.
So he has that going for him, which I think is a path to playing earlier.
I do too. And I think he has the physical tools to hold up in that offense. He has the physical tool. And yes, like you said, I mean, if you understand what we're doing and the concepts aren't really changing, there's going to be language, whatever, but you know what we're trying to get done and you know what we're doing, I do think that helps him an awful lot. He's already played with and under and had his best year with a pro coach who is good at that. And obviously he's back in Kentucky now, but like a guy who's proven he can do some things. So I think that's part of what people lose on Levis, and I think that they also lose all the things he can do with the ball.
Well, everybody brings Josh Allen up, that's where with Richardson and Levis you get the most, because Josh Allen did it. Well, maybe they could do it, but Josh Allen's one of the few.
Yes.
I will say that Josh Allen played in an offense at Wyoming that is very NFL-esque.
Yep.
And they
more than people thought
on purpose. It was the same one Carson Wentz played at at North Dakota State. Craig Bohl was the head coach in both cases, and he knew how to set protections. He knew how to do all of the things that they would ask you to do.
Right.
He could rattle off the play names. People don't understand how much of a curve that is.
If you're not lost, if you're not drowning on day one, because you're going to be up to your eyes and it's going to be bad. But if you're not drowning on day one, those are the guys that we see when we go out there and you watch first day of camp. The rookies that are moving at the speed that you're used to seeing them moving at. They're the ones they're used to it. They know what's going on. They're not lost. And for a quarterback to play in, it's why Bama's guys sometimes, it's like any system. Michigan is going to maybe someday have some of this. If you have pro coaches that have had success and they know how to, this is what you are going to need to do baseline.
Well, and it's funny. Thing. We went back to the interview we did with Brock Purdy before the draft last year. And one of the questions I asked him, because he'd mentioned that Tom Manning, who was his OC the last 3 years at Iowa State, was with Sirianni with the Colts. And he just brought Sirianni's offense.
Yeah.
And so I asked Brock to rattle off a play. And so he does. And I'm like, holy, that's a lot of words. Well, now you see and
how it works.
Tons of pre-snap motion. It wasn't the Shanahan offense, but it was something somewhat similar.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
And Shanahan talked about that. He was like, this guy's got that. He asked the right questions. He knows what we're doing. And I think that's the thing that all GMs are looking for in quarterbacks everywhere across the board. Do you know what we're doing?
Yeah.
Do you know what we're trying to accomplish on every single snap? And really, do you know what we're trying to accomplish with our game plan? Do you know what we're trying to do throughout the course of a game? And yes, I think that gets lost a ton on guys who play for coaches in school that these people know. That's why Iowa guys, it's not quarterback, but Iowa has
defensive players, absolutely.
Right, because they all know Kirk and they trust him, and that's a huge part of it.
Well, let's transition to the Big Ten because
let's do it.
I feel like we've talked about Michigan's offseason, but in the NCAA stuff, the Harbaugh flirting with the NFL stuff, forget all that.
Pretty good team.
This is the 2-time defending Big Ten champs. They've got the best quarterback.
They do.
J.J. McCarthy is the best Michigan quarterback since
Chad Henne.
Wow.
I actually, because I wrote that.
Okay.
I said that off the top of my head because I wrote it. But that's true, right?
Yes.
He's the best one since Chad Henne, who just wrapped his amazing career.
The Tennessee fans are going, it's just because you didn't know what you had with Joe Milton.
Well, maybe fair enough, but that's really true. We're talking Lloyd Carr, and Lloyd retired 20 years ago or whatever.
It was 2007 was Lloyd's last season.
Yep.
That is... I did not think about it like that.
But it's real. That's real. Because Denard is like the weird kind of like unicorn.
Yeah.
It's probably Denard, but it's like you go back further and you're like, no, it's Chad Henne.
No, I think it's JJ, and not just because of the pro style piece of it.
Yes.
Denard could do what Denard could do, but Denard was not Rich Rod's best quarterback.
No, it was
like
not. No.
Pat White at Michigan in that offense would have been, but that wasn't Denard.
Right.
So that's
a really good point. Yeah.
So that said, Sharon Moore's still there.
Yes, I love Sharon Moore. I think he's great.
I think what they do in the transfer portal is unbelievable.
They're the best at it.
Like Ladarius Henderson. So I met Ladarius Henderson when he was a 17-year-old freshman at Arizona State. He's from Texas. He was a guy that they had kind of unearthed and had to play. He was playing left tackle.
Yep.
Who is Bradley Anai?
Yes,
the Utah guy, edge rusher, who was like 23 years old that year.
And a good senior player.
Really good. And just destroyed Ladarius Henderson because, come on, he's 17 years old. But the guy held his own and has actually developed into a very good guard, which is what he'll play in the NFL.
Yep.
And that Michigan went and got him.
He's going to be a high-level pick here next year.
Yes.
And, like I'm sure you've talked to Dane about him. Like, Dane is super high on him. And...
Well, I just remember seeing as a freshman how bendy he was.
Right, and they got Miles Hinton from Stanford, Chris Hinton's brother and old Chris Hinton's son. Same kind of thing. These are like 5-star athletes, and I think that Sharon Moore's presence and the ability, what they've done the last 3 or 4 years, because they've had draft picks on the offensive line for 5-6 years, and Jim tried to make that a big point of, if nothing else, we're fixing the line, because that's what we got to do here. And keeping Sharon and I think promoting him and showing to all of these guys, because when they walk in, he's their best recruiter, Sharon Moore. So when they walk into a room on these transfer portal visits with a guy who's going to be an All-American, it's over.
Well, and
I don't know where else you're going.
Yeah. And Sharon's going to be a head coach
very soon,
sooner rather than later. Right. So enjoy
maybe
him
at Michigan.
Now. Maybe right.
Like I think it's time to start talking about.
I promised I wasn't going to get into the Harbaugh NFL stuff.
Yeah, we don't need to go because Jim's getting old. He can't do it forever.
Exactly.
But, you never know. Oklahoma people might want.
He's clearing trees out of the road right now. So
yes,
I mean, but they are in a very good situation right now, and it's strange to see where they are in the rivalry with Ohio State because now I do think, going back to what we were talking about with C.J. Stroud and the Peach Bowl, I think Ryan Day helped himself a lot, even though they didn't win that game, by showing they could go toe-to-toe with Georgia.
Yep.
Because that says, okay, it's not a toughness problem. Like they lost to Michigan 2 years in a row. Right. Yes. Perhaps they don't match up as well as they should.
I think that's more.
But they can work on that.
Yeah. I think that's more in line But if you look at that game against Georgia and you say, well, Georgia's a better team than Michigan, and if Ohio State had called that game against Michigan, they win the game. I think that's probably how it would have gone.
But now maybe they learned that, maybe they didn't. It's very interesting because we have a commenter when we do our YouTube shows live.
Yeah.
Ono224, who had the greatest. This is still the single greatest comment we've ever had on the show. He said Michigan or Ohio State is built to hang 50 on Michigan State. And Michigan is built to beat Ohio State.
That's pretty much true.
Yes.
That's 100% true. That must be a Michigan fan. Ono, the president, his name's Ono.
Yes.
So that must be
maybe it's the president.
But it might be the president, Andy. I mean, this is a popular program. But
no, different spellings. Saints Ono is O-N-O.
Okay,
yeah.
Look, I mean, that's not wrong. And I think that's what the stuff that gets lost on Jim Harbaugh because there's so much stuff every year that we talk about, and he's a weird guy, and he's different, and all that. There are not 10 better people, I don't think, in football at identifying talent off the beaten path. That's not necessarily they're going to be recruited, but he IDs guys that become five stars. You know what I mean?
And but they also still get 5 stars.
And they do sometimes, but it's not. They don't over. That's why those recruiting rankings with Michigan, there's such an outlier. I feel like because. When Ari will talk about if you just chart it out year over year, I mean, you have to have a top level. Yeah. They've sort of been able to be the one that hasn't.
They've also done the thing.
But they haven't finished.
They've done the thing that closes the gap with the 5-star quarterback.
Right.
The hit the quarterback right, the gap closes. But they've also.
And guys want to play with him too.
Yeah. And Donovan Edwards, 5-star guy.
Yeah, he's going to be better than Corum.
Every part the 5-star in the Ohio State game. But let's talk about Corum. Because, listen, it's a choice to come back.
It was a choice.
It is certainly a choice because I don't know that any running back should ever come back because of the way the position works, because it's a car crash every play.
Right.
But he has a chance to be truly special, and that backfield has a chance to be really incredibly special next year.
And I think that this is why NIL, I think, is obviously it's cool for a ton of reasons, but for his situation especially, coming off an injury, you don't quite know where you stack in this class. It's a super deep running back class in terms of depth.
Yep.
He's going to get. I think I was told it's upwards of 7 figures and beyond that. I think he can make.
Which also is a great recruiting tool going forward.
And Blake Corum is going to be a person at the University of Michigan that is remembered and celebrated. And no matter if it doesn't work out in the NFL for him, he will have connections and people. And not to say that other players don't, but when you go that extra mile for them, they pay you back. That's how Michigan's always done it.
Absolutely.
They take care of you after you're gone.
This is the thing with Michigan, with Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, same thing. With Ohio State, too.
Yeah, we talked about it with Pete Sampson when we were talking about Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. Okay, everybody's complaining that they're not up front NIL crazy. They're not doing some of the things that like Tennessee's doing. But the thing is, if you blow up at Michigan, if you blow up at Notre Dame,
it's not going to matter.
You're going to get tons of money.
C.J. Carr, Lloyd's grandson, is going to Notre Dame.
Yes.
The amount of NIL money that he is looking at is they don't even know what that is. The families, we don't even know what that is.
If you become a great quarterback at Notre Dame in this era,
it could
good
be,
Lord.
It could it could be astronomical. And it's just like, that's not why he's going there. But it's also like it's an addition too. And when you think it all the way out, what it could be, it's a different deal for sure.
But it's amazing how our discussion of Michigan has changed so much.
It really is,
and it really hinges on 2 games.
Yeah, those 2, yeah. But that's what it always was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
To a degree. It always felt like that. In all the years that I was covering them when they were 10-2 and they were knocking on the door and you knew they would go down there and get beat, it was just like you're just banging your head against the wall. And the point that, our commenter made, 224 is so perfect because they finally stopped. When Jim came to Michigan, it was, we are going to be Alabama 2.0. We're going to do what Saban's doing.
Yeah.
No, Urban was doing that. He figured that out probably a little too late, and then it became, we need to solve this. That's it. Everything else will take care of itself, and I think that's kind of what's happening.
Well, and the thing is, if you're good enough to beat Ohio State, you're going to win most of your other games anyway.
Pretty much anything, outside of Georgia.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah,
or if you choke against TCU.
Exactly.
But other than that,
Well, listen, that is a weird game.
And TCU's a scrappy team.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to. I hate that people take that away from them.
No, TCU played a great game
because they played an amazing game. Yeah, and they have guys too. They have guys that'll be here. So.
Yeah, it is amazing to me though, because this is as optimistic as I can remember being about Michigan.
Yeah,
and I thought they were good coming into last year, but
maybe I didn't think they would do that though.
Maybe it's talking to Dane so much, and he's so high on JJ.
He likes JJ a lot,
and that's. But knowing they have that guy at quarterback now,
and they have the line to protect him, and they've got really good receivers, and they've got guys, I think, finally that understand the mental what it takes to play for Jim Harbaugh. They've got Jim Harbaugh guys now, and I think you can tell. You can tell that. If you watch, you remember the Stanford guys. You remember the guys that played for him in San Francisco that he loved, Frank Gore.
Oh, yeah.
The Harbaugh guys are guys that love football and will run through a wall, and that's their whole team now. It was not their whole team 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago when he first got here. They were recruiting a different type of player, but he just went all in on, I want tough kids.
It actually seems like, though, that came when the youth movement on the staff happened as well.
It sort of, I think they brought back some former players. Mike Hart, Ronald Bellamy was huge in that. Courtney Morgan, who went on to Washington, was huge in that. They got back to this is a tough place.
Right.
This place was built on tough people that came here to prove that they were tough. That's what we want here.
I heard Rand Carthon, who's the new GM of the Titans, talking about this today. He's like, it's all pretty running this motion and stuff in September and October. But what happens in January? And I was thinking, that's what I was thinking, though, because I was talking to somebody earlier today about Lincoln Riley and USC moving to the Big Ten. Yeah. I'm like, when you got to play Luke Fickell's Wisconsin team in November,
what are you going to do?
You got to be a certain kind of way.
You might get beat 50-0, and they might not throw a pass. That might happen, right?
Yeah.
You got to be a certain kind of way. It's a different league, and it's a tough league, and I think that's where you credit Harbaugh all the way, because he just figured it out. It was, we're going to be tougher.
Well, that's why I can't wait to see Fickell at Wisconsin. Because
I am very excited for that, too.
He clearly looked into that program because he wouldn't take the job unless they had said, we are committed to competing with Michigan.
Right, and spending the money that we have, finally.
Yes. They've not been keen on that. Right. Barry didn't like to write checks.
No, well, we'll see now. But I love that hire. That's a great fit.
Yeah, it is going to be good. Now, the other piece of this, Mel Tucker and Michigan State.
Yes.
We were celebrating Mel Tucker, his acumen in the transfer portal.
Right.
He gets the huge contract, which I don't know that there was anybody who was like, that's a great idea.
No, but it was also like, what else are you going to do?
LSU was sniffing around.
Yeah, right.
That was the money that
they had to sort of.
And that was the money they ended up giving Brian Kelly.
Right,
so
exactly.
It was, and you can say, well, no.
Right.
It was real.
Very real.
So
I don't fault them for giving him that deal, and I don't fault them for going all in on him. But
now you got to produce.
He's going to have to change some things, because I think that what he did so well at the beginning was come in with a blank slate, and he was the first one to use the portal. He was the first one in the country to really maximize it. Well, other people are doing it better now with more resources. You got to figure something else out. And I think that the thing that Mel Tucker has worked for so many coaches in so many places, and he's so well respected and thought of, and you can't find people who say bad things about him. I mean, Mel. Yeah. I think Mel will find another way.
I think he'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think he'll figure it out.
Now,
I don't think it's going to be very fast. I think it might take a couple of years.
But what he wants to do is build the way that Nick Saban here's the thing. He's worked for Tressel. He's worked for Saban. He's worked for Kirby Smart.
Right.
All of these people built a program where they overwhelmed you with talent.
Right. Yes. And I think he tried at the beginning, I think we can do that here, was sort of his mantra. Maybe not. I don't think you can do that there. I think you have to lean more into your developmental side, and I think that's what it's time for him to do. Because I think he can coach. Mel can coach.
You kind of have to take the Dabo Sweeney. And this is Ari and I argued about this, because he said, well, you can't do that at Michigan State. I said, well, you can't. You can do it anywhere if you're the right person.
I think you can,
but you can't do it immediately. But
it took Dabo forever.
You could do the Dabo way, which is you out evaluate, but you also go all in on certain 5-star types, like the Christian Wilkins, like Deshaun Watson, those types of people.
Yes.
And they, because of your personality and because they love you, may come to you. They may not.
That's what he can do. I think that's what he can do. I think he can still, because he still gets in the door with guys that he probably shouldn't get in the door with. And they had a bad year. They need to be better. They need to be better on the field. But I do think it's going to be a matter of he's going to have to sort of like go back to the drawing board and find different ways to sort of,
because it's not like when he went to Georgia from Alabama, when Kirby got the Georgia job as the DC.
Right.
Mark Richt had left behind a trove of talent. That was already a very good roster, and they just maximized it.
And they topped it out.
Mark D'Antonio did not leave.
He did not.
A good roster.
And that is not something that people talk about or remember. It was, not only did he not leave a good roster, he left like a 4-year cycle of bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was just they did not recruit well. They
basically
had
from 2016 they changed the recruiting philosophy.
And they went all in on, they tried to go get the big hitters.
And it was ugly.
It was bad. And it rotted out completely. They were... they've had their draft streak. I think that's going to be Jaden Reed's here. He'll get drafted. But, there was a question a couple years ago where it's like, I don't see a draft pick on this team. Yeah. How did that happen? And that was Mark D'Antonio. And it's like that. The way he left, people forget about that, kind of in the middle of the night, Well,
and somebody brought this up. A Michigan State fan brought this up to me the other day, and I had completely forgotten about this, even though it only happened a few years ago. Right. Remember, right before his last season, when he just reassigned all the assistants?
Yeah, to different jobs.
Yeah,
he didn't fire anybody.
Like he spun a wheel.
What are we doing? The chore chart changed from different jobs.
Yeah,
and it's like I don't understand what we're doing here.
Yeah,
and then he quits, and you're like, okay.
So
it was a mess. It was really bad.
Unlike Texas A&M, where I do think, if they decide they're mad at Jimbo Fisher enough, or they have another year like last year, that they'll find the money. Yeah. That ain't happening to Michigan State.
They don't. No, that's not happening. And so much as there's
especially
private
since
money.
Sugar Daddy just bought the Suns. He's got a Kevin Durant to pay now.
I think you're in the spot. You're not stuck with him. I don't like that word because he's a good coach, but he's there. He's your guy. Make it work. And I think that you can find a way, especially once the Big Ten grows and changes and this sport changes. I think that's when you just got to hang on. When the sport starts to change and it becomes Big Ten versus SEC and that's all we're doing, I think Mel Tucker does really well.
I think he's very well set up for that. But I
got to get there first.
Right. He had a lot more hole to dig out of than I think people realize. So I'm not all out on Mel Tucker after last year.
Not at all. He's too good of a coach.
Another year like that, we may have a problem. But
then you're talking is the program and But no, he's too good of a coach. He's done too much good stuff elsewhere.
You know what that means? We could 2021.
Yeah.
Michigan State, Michigan, maybe the most fun football game of the year.
It was amazing. It was like one of the best played games of that.
So that's
season.
what I want to see.
Yeah, that's what I wrote.
Get back to that because I want to see that game again.
We can have this. Yes. I wrote that after I think it was after 2021, the season, because they were both so good. I'm like, we can have this every single year forever. These two guys can do it.
Well, the Big Ten can have this.
I do too. I agree.
The Big Ten can have that level of top heaviness, the same as the SEC, where you can have Alabama and Georgia be good every year, so you could have Michigan and Ohio State be good every year, but then LSU's good most years, or Auburn cycles up and has or Tennessee or Florida. Same thing with Penn State, with Wisconsin, with USC.
Yes.
That all can happen now.
Yeah.
Michigan State.
It changes everything. When the money rolls in, and in some ways the competition shrinks because it's going to. Everything changes, and it's going to be about what's your coach. Yeah. And I think if you're Michigan State, you have to hang in there because that was a good hire, and they missed on Fickle, and it wasn't good. And to get him out of that, to get Mel Tucker out of that whole mess, I thought that was good. Keep him, hold on, and you just got to row the boat with him a little bit, not to steal PJ's line.
PJ's
you got to row the canoe.
That's right.
Whatever.
Yeah, PJ's like, wait, you haven't talked about me yet. You're talking about the Big Ten. You're not talking about me, and you're rowing the boat.
Unacceptable.
Nick Baumgartner, thank you so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Andy.